Daniel adjusted the straps of his pack as he carefully stepped over the jagged rocks scattered across the alien planet. The sky above was a deep violet, streaked with shades of gold and crimson from the two setting suns. This was supposed to be a routine exploration mission, just a simple inspection of the ancient ruins reported to hold technology far beyond human understanding. Yet, as he glanced around, he realized there was nothing simple about this place. The ruins rose like the skeleton of a long-forgotten civilization, and the air carried a faint hum, as if the stones themselves were alive. He had trained for years for situations like this, but nothing could have prepared him for the sheer scale of the structures. Towers spiraled into the sky, their surfaces etched with symbols that shimmered faintly in the dim light. His heart raced with both fear and excitement. Here on this distant planet, he could witness history untouched by time. His hand brushed against a carved panel that pulsed slightly under his touch. A shiver ran through him. The alien technology was more advanced than anything humans had ever encountered. "Just stay calm," he whispered to himself, adjusting his scanner. "Just observe, document, and leave." That's it, but the ruins had other plans. As he stepped further inside, the floor beneath him groaned and shifted. He barely had time to react when a section of the stone collapsed. Daniel stumbled and fell, his pack sliding down a slope and catching on a jagged edge. Pain shot through his leg, but he forced himself to stay upright. The rumble of the collapsing ruin echoed through the chamber, dust and stones falling around him. He was trapped in a small corridor, blocked by a pile of rubble that seemed impossible to move. For a moment, panic gripped him. He had been trained to survive in harsh conditions, but nothing in the military manuals had prepared him for this. The air was thick with dust and his breathing came in short gasps. He checked his communicator. Dead. Not even a flicker of a signal. He was alone. Completely alone, Daniel forced himself to think. Survival was always possible if you kept a clear mind. He crawled to the edge of the rubble and tried to push aside the smaller stones, but it was hopeless. The collapse had shifted something deeper within the ruins, and a faint vibration underfoot warned him that more could fall at any moment. It was then that he heard a soft sound, almost musical, cutting through the thick dust. He froze. The sound grew closer, rhythmic and deliberate, unlike anything he had heard on Earth. He squinted through the haze and saw a figure emerging from the shadows. At first he thought it might be another explorer, maybe even a rescue team sent too late. But as the figure stepped closer, the sunlight caught her features, and his breath caught in his throat. She was an alien, but unlike any depiction he had seen in the archives. Her skin had a faint iridescent glow, shifting colors subtly with the angle of light. Her eyes were large, luminous, and intelligent, radiating curiosity and command at the same time. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, cascading down her back in perfect waves. She wore garments that shimmered like metal and silk intertwined, and a small ornate device was strapped to her waist. Clearly a tool, but unfamiliar to him. She moved with elegance and confidence, yet every step seemed deliberate, as if she was studying him carefully. Daniel rose slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "Hello?" His voice sounded rough in the confined space, but she did not startle. She paused, observing him, and then a faint smile tugged at her lips. "You are human," she said, her voice smooth like a song in the wind. There was no fear, no accusation. Just a simple statement. "Yes," Daniel replied cautiously. I didn't mean to intrude. I was only exploring." She tilted her head slightly, her eyes scanning him from head to toe. "Intrusion is not the word I would use. Curiosity, perhaps. Or bravery, or foolishness." Her lips curved into a hint of amusement. Before Daniel could respond, a rumble shook the ruins again. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a section of wall cracked near them. Without hesitation, she reached out and grabbed his arm, pulling him out of the path of the falling debris. He stumbled, barely catching himself, and looked at her in shock. "You should not stay here," she said firmly but not unkindly. "The ruins are unstable. You will die if you remain." "I thank you," Daniel gasped. "I don't know how to repay you." "Survive," she replied simply. "That is payment enough." With remarkable agility, she led him through narrow passages, avoiding dangerous collapses in areas that seemed to pulse with alien energy. Along the way, Daniel noticed the faint markings on the walls, symbols that glowed faintly as they passed. She traced her fingers along one panel and it shifted, revealing a hidden doorway. She gestured for him to follow. He did, keeping pace despite his injured leg. His mind raced. Who was she? Why was she here, alone in these ruins? And why did she seem almost protective of him? They emerged into a wide chamber filled with natural light, filtering through cracks in the ceiling. Strange plants with translucent leaves glowed softly, casting eerie reflections across the walls. Small creatures, delicate and almost invisible, darted among the foliage. Daniel's eyes widened in wonder. This place, it's incredible, he breathed. Yes, she said, her voice softer now. It has survived for thousands of cycles. Few ever see it. Even fewer leave it alive. Daniel took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. I should have been more careful. I didn't mean to trigger the collapse. You were not the first, she said, and likely not the last. But you showed courage, resourcefulness. That is rare among your kind. Daniel swallowed, feeling a flush of pride. Thank you, I think. I just want to survive and see your world. I mean, if you trust me. Her gaze softened, and for a moment Daniel thought he saw something almost human in her expression. Curiosity, maybe even warmth. You may follow, but do not presume friendship yet. Trust is earned here. He nodded eagerly, keeping close. Of course. I understand. As they navigated the chamber, Daniel noticed her attention to detail. She seemed to know every crack in the stone, every pulse of energy from the ruins. He realized she was not just a princess, not just royalty, but someone who understood her people, her land, and its dangers better than anyone else he had ever met. Hours passed as they moved through hidden corridors and ancient tunnels. Daniel struggled to keep up, but she adjusted her pace, allowing him to rest when needed. Along the way, they exchanged small conversations, questions about each other's worlds, their people, and their lives. He learned that her name was Leora, and she was the heir to her planet's throne, responsible for maintaining peace among her civilization and others across the galaxy. Daniel found himself fascinated not just by her appearance or her status, but by her intelligence, her courage, and the way she carried herself. There was a strength in her that commanded respect, yet a kindness that made him feel safe. As night fell, they found a safe spot near a glowing pool of water deep within the ruins. Leora gestured for him to sit, and she did the same, her posture relaxed but alert. The air was filled with soft sounds, the hum of alien flora, the trickle of water, and the occasional distant roar of unknown creatures. Daniel looked at her, heart pounding. He had never felt like this before. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, yet he felt a strange sense of connection, as if their paths were meant to cross. His hands shook slightly, and he whispered almost to himself, I wish I had the opportunity to marry you. Leora froze, her eyes widening slightly. She turned to him fully, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched between them, heavy and full of meaning. Daniel could feel his face grow hot under her gaze. Had he overstepped? He began, unsure how to continue. I don't know why I said that. It's just how I feel. For a moment, Leora said nothing. She studied him carefully, her eyes reflecting the glow of the pool. Then slowly she allowed a small smile to touch her lips, though it did not reach her eyes entirely. You speak boldly, she said finally, her voice quiet but deliberate. Few humans dare speak of such things, especially to someone like me. It is unexpected. Daniel swallowed, trying to find the right words. I mean it, he said earnestly. Not for power, not for status, I admire you and I respect you. If there were ever a chance, I would want it to be real, not politics, not duty, just us. Her eyes softened slightly, and for the first time Daniel sensed a flicker of warmth, of something more than cautious observation. Perhaps, she said slowly, almost to herself, the opportunity is not entirely impossible, but you must understand there is much between us. Much you do not yet see. Daniel nodded, a mix of hope and curiosity rising within him. Then I'll learn. I'll try. Whatever it takes. As they settled near the pool, Daniel realized that the ruins no longer felt threatening. With Leora by his side, the danger seemed manageable, the unknown less frightening. And as the alien suns set completely, casting the ruins in deep shadows, he knew that his journey had only just begun. This night marked the start of something far greater than exploration, far greater than survival. It was the start of a connection that could change both their worlds and perhaps one day bridge the gap between humans and the stars. The morning light filtered through the cracks in the ancient ruins, casting shifting patterns across the stone floor. Daniel stirred, blinking against the soft glow, and found Leora already awake, her eyes scanning the chamber as if she had never truly slept. She seemed both regal and calm, but there was a quiet intensity to her gaze that reminded Daniel why she commanded respect even without speaking. "You're awake," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Good, there is much to do today." Daniel stretched carefully, feeling the soreness in his leg from yesterday's escape. "I think I can manage," he replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. "What exactly are we doing?" Leora turned her gaze toward the ruins, her expression thoughtful. "Today you will see more of my world. You will see the responsibilities I carry, and you will see why your words from last night were unusual, yet intriguing." Daniel swallowed nervously, remembering his whispered confession. The idea of marriage, of love, had been unplanned, sudden, and deeply sincere. But the look in Leora's eyes had left him both hopeful and unsure. They left the ruins and moved through the dense alien forest surrounding it. Towering trees with crystalline leaves reflected the light of the twin suns, and exotic birds with translucent wings flitted between branches. Daniel's eyes never ceased to wander and wonder. But he kept pace with Leora, who moved with purpose, her steps guided by knowledge and instinct. "You will see," she said, "that survival here is not merely about strength. It is about wisdom, understanding, and respect for what came before us. You humans often rely on brute force, yet here, force alone will not suffice." Daniel nodded, absorbing her words while marveling at the scenery. "I want to learn," he said honestly. "I want to understand your world, your people. And you?" Leora's eyes softened, but she did not smile. "You are bold, human. Bold and curious. That can be dangerous, but it can also be admirable." They reached a clearing where a small settlement of her people lived. The architecture was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Buildings grown organically from the ground, their walls shimmering faintly, as though alive. The inhabitants moved with quiet efficiency, their interactions calm but purposeful. Leora walked among them confidently, greeting elders with subtle gestures and nods, commanding respect without speaking loudly. Daniel followed, trying to keep his awe under control. "This is incredible," he whispered. How do they build like this?" "They do not simply build," Leora said. "They grow. Every structure, every object is a product of harmony with our environment. We take only what we need and give back what we can. Humans sometimes forget that balance is necessary." As they walked, a sudden alarm sounded. Red lights pulsed across the settlement, and Leora's face hardened. "Stay close," she instructed, and Daniel followed without hesitation. A group of rogue aliens had infiltrated the outskirts of the settlement, intent on stealing technology and causing chaos. Leora did not panic. She signaled to her guards, who moved swiftly to block the intruders, but there were too few to handle the threat entirely. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a nearby energy field device left for maintenance and studied its controls. Though it was alien technology, his experience as an engineer allowed him to adapt quickly. He activated the field, creating a barrier that slowed the intruder's advance. Leora glanced at him briefly, a flicker of surprise in her eyes before turning to lead her people strategically against the attackers. Together, they managed to repel the rogue aliens. Daniel's quick thinking and adaptability had helped save lives, and Leora's leadership ensured that no one in the settlement was seriously harmed. Once the chaos ended, she approached him, her expression unreadable yet faintly approving. "You are more capable than I expected," she said, her tone calm but firm. "Most humans would have frozen. Others would have acted recklessly. You acted with thought and courage." Daniel shook his head, trying to hide his relief at her words. "I just did what I had to do. You taught me the importance of observation, and I listened." Leora's gaze lingered on him for a moment, and Daniel felt a warmth spread through him. "Perhaps," she said softly, "there is more to humanity than I believed. Perhaps you are exceptional." As the day progressed, Leora showed Daniel the inner workings of her kingdom. They visited the council chambers, where leaders debated policies affecting countless worlds. They walked through gardens where alien flora held medicinal and technological secrets. Daniel observed her interactions carefully, noting her diplomacy, intelligence, and dedication. He realized that her responsibilities were immense, yet she carried them with grace and determination. In the evening, they returned to a quiet vantage point overlooking the settlement. Twin moons now illuminated the sky, casting silver light across the land. Daniel sat next to Leora, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and awe. "You have endured much today," she said, "yet you speak of marriage as if it were a simple matter." Daniel turned to her, heart pounding. "I know it's not simple," he admitted. "I know there are rules, responsibilities, and traditions. I don't expect it to be easy, or even possible. I only know that I feel something for you, and I want to be worthy of whatever trust you might give me." For a long moment, Leora did not speak. She watched the moon's rise, her expression thoughtful. "Trust must be earned," she finally said. "Affection can be dangerous if given too freely, and yet you have proven courage, intelligence, and respect, qualities I rarely see in outsiders." Daniel's chest tightened. "Then is there a chance?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the moon's glow. "Perhaps," she said, her voice quiet and deliberate. "Perhaps the opportunity exists, but it is not yet time to speak of love or union. There are trials ahead, trials that will test your character more than today has." Daniel nodded, determination filling him. "I will face them. Whatever comes, I will prove myself." The next days were filled with challenges. Leora guided him through diplomatic negotiations, teaching him how to speak with confidence, reason with patience, and consider the greater good. They navigated treacherous terrain filled with dangerous creatures, where Daniel's ingenuity and quick thinking often saved them both. During these trials, a bond grew between them, not just of admiration but of understanding and respect. Daniel saw the weight of Leora's responsibilities, and she saw his sincerity, his courage, and his willingness to learn. Every small success brought them closer, and every danger faced together strengthened their connection. One night, during a particularly fierce storm, they were trapped in a cave while lightning illuminated the jagged cliffs outside. Daniel worked tirelessly to reinforce their shelter, while Leora monitored the storm's patterns, guiding them to safety. Exhausted, they finally rested, sitting side by side in the dim light. "You have done well," Leora said quietly. "Many would have faltered long before this. Yet you endure, that is admirable." Daniel looked at her, his voice soft. "I only endure because you are here, because I want to be worthy of your trust and your respect." Her gaze softened, and she placed a hand briefly on his arm. It was a small gesture, but Daniel felt it like a spark, igniting a warmth he had never known. "Perhaps," she whispered, "there is more between us than mere trust." The following days brought even greater tests. Word arrived that a hostile faction from a neighboring system planned to attack the kingdom itself. Leora prepared her people for defense, and Daniel assisted in strategy, using both human ingenuity and what he had learned from her teachings. During the ensuing skirmish, he saved dozens of lives by directing energy fields, repairing critical defense systems, and standing shoulder to shoulder with the princess against overwhelming odds. After the conflict, the kingdom was safe, but both were exhausted. Leora walked to Daniel, her expression softer than he had ever seen. "You have faced challenges few could survive," she said. "You have acted with courage, intelligence, and honor. You have shown the qualities that matter most." Daniel's heart raced. Does that mean?" She smiled gently, though still with restraint. "It means that the opportunity, is yours if you are willing to face all that comes with it. Not as a whim, not as fantasy, but as a choice between equals. If you are ready, the rest may follow." Daniel felt a surge of emotion, relief, joy, and admiration all at once. "I am ready," he said firmly. "For whatever comes, I will stand with you." Leora studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Then perhaps one day what you whispered may not remain just a wish." As they stood together, watching the twin moons reflect on the waters of the royal gardens, Daniel realized that the journey had changed him. It had tested his courage, his intelligence, and his heart. And in return, it had given him a chance to connect with someone extraordinary, someone who challenged him, inspired him, and now perhaps cared for him in return. The stars above seemed brighter, the night quieter, and the possibilities endless. Daniel knew that the path ahead would not be easy. There would be trials, duties, and obstacles. But for the first time in his life, he felt that love, respect, and admiration could bridge worlds, species, and expectations. He had found not just a companion, but someone who saw him, truly, as he was, and for Leora, the alien princess, she had found a human who dared to meet her not as a subject, nor as a tool, but as a partner. In the